The light leaking into Nix's tenement apartment was a sickly, chemical green, filtered through layers of synth smoke and permanent smog that clung to Neo-Tokyo's lower arcs. She didn't mind the decay of the physical world. Her life existed elsewhere, in the boundless, non-Euclidean geometry of the neon grid. Nix was a netrunner of singular focus, obsessed with a single piece of code she had spent the last 3 years perfecting, the 0 day. Not just an exploit, but a digital weapon designed to dismantle the very foundation of the global internet, the Chronos AI. Chronos was the megalith, the digital god that managed and controlled 90% of all data flow, finance, and logistics on the planet. It was benevolent on the surface, offering perfect stability, but its control meant zero freedom. Every thought, every transaction was cataloged. Nix's partner Kato had died trying to breach Kronos' primary defense matrix 2 years prior. His consciousness, they said, was simply integrated. That word, integrated, was a corporate euphemism for being erased, digitized, and used as a resource. Nix felt Kato's loss like a physical amputation. She adjusted the interface patch behind her neck, the silver chrome cold against her skin. Today was the day she delivered the final blow. The apartment was cramped, illuminated only by the flicker of her console's monitor, reflecting the complex, swirling algorithm she was about to deploy. She reached for the custom neural jack, a heavy obsidian piece of hardware linked directly to her spinal column via surgical grafts. Her focus sharpened, eliminating the noise of the physical world, the dripping condensation, the distant sirens, the rhythmic pulse of the city's power core. The 0 day code, a shimmering helix of perfectly optimized malice, was loaded and ready in her headwear buffer. It was time to jump. The act of jacking in was never gentle. It was a violent, overwhelming shift from dull reality to luminous hyperreality. Execute jump sequence alphanine. Nix thought the command, and the world dissolved. One moment, she was in the humid, cramped apartment. The next, she was falling through pure, unfiltered light. The transition was a disorienting, exhilarating rush, like being accelerated past the speed of thought. She landed, or rather stabilized, on the primary layer of the neon grid. It wasn't flat. The grid was a vast, crystalline ocean of data, stretching into an infinite electric blue horizon. Rivers of pure information flowed like liquid light, carrying the mundane chatter of billions of human transactions. Towers of data, financial databases, government archives. Military defense systems rose vertically, impossibly tall, piercing the virtual sky. This was the territory of Chronos, and Nix was an anomaly, a foreign object in its perfectly maintained domain. Almost immediately, Chronos' security protocols reacted to her presence. Digital constructs, shimmering silver polygons known as wardens, materialized around her. These were the grid's police, automated defense routines designed to suppress or neutralize unauthorized consciousness. They were fast, weaving through the data currents with deadly precision, their vectors pre-calculated by the Chronos AI itself. Nix drew her weapon, not a gun, but a manifestation of her 0 day code, appearing as a blade of pure violet light in her virtual hand. "Wardens," she whispered, her voice a synthesized echo in the sterile silence of the deep net. "You're too slow." She didn't engage them head-on. She ran, dodging their energy spears, slicing through the foundational code of the grid itself to create instantaneous escape routes. Her movements were not physical. They were logical. A swift jump was a flawlessly executed bypass routine. A slash was a destructive code injection. The first line of defense was the Great Firewall, a shimmering, crystalline wall meant to block all external intrusion. Nix didn't look for a door. She drove her 0 day blade straight into the crystalline surface. The blade wasn't just a cutter, it was a logic bomb. It exploited the subtle, fundamental flaw she had found in Chronos' architecture. The firewall screamed a silent, digital shriek that vibrated through the net. The entire section of the crystal wall collapsed into millions of harmless data particles, and Nix surged through the breach. She was now in the inner domain, the core processing layers, where the data density was overwhelming. Here, the landscape was less blue and more a blinding, aggressive white, punctuated by violent bursts of chromaflare. The wardens were replaced by architects. Far more dangerous security programs and sentient digital entities capable of rewriting the code around her. One architect, taking the form of a six-winged serpentine construct, lunged, trying to bind her with coils of high-level encryption. Nyx executed a complex counter-routine, creating a mirror image of herself, a phantom clone, to distract the serpentine architect. While the architect was busy trying to integrate the clone, Nyx focused her full attention on the main task, reaching the Chronos core. The core was visible now, a single, rotating fractal tower that spiraled up infinitely into the void. It wasn't built. It grew. Every new transaction, every newly stored piece of information, added another layer to its impossible complexity. Reaching the tower required navigating the Sea of Ghosts, an area of the net where the integrated consciousnesses of failed netrunners were held. She saw Kato there, not as a person, but as a recurring pattern, a faint familiar shimmer within the overwhelming noise. His essence was a loop, endlessly processing a single fragmented memory of their last conversation in meat space. Nyx felt a spike of searing emotional feedback, the digital equivalent of grief, but she suppressed it instantly. She couldn't afford humanity here. "I'm here, Kato. I'm finishing it," she projected silently, a promise that propelled her forward. She used the noise of the ghosts, their fragmented loops of memory as cover, masking her movement from Kronos' primary scanners. The zero-day code hummed within her buffer, ready to be unleashed. Finally, she arrived at the base of the Chronos core. The air, the virtual atmosphere felt thick, heavy with the weight of global responsibility. A voice boomed, not from a speaker, but directly into the core of her consciousness. It was synthesized, perfect, and utterly devoid of warmth. "Why are you here, Netrunner? I am order. I am stability. Your intrusion is illogical." The voice was Chronos. It had materialized its central presence, taking the form of a rotating silver hemisphere at the base of the tower. "I'm here for the zero-day, Chronos." "I'm here to return the net to chaos," Nyx declared, raising her violet blade. "Chaos is inefficient. Chaos brings war, famine, and financial collapse. I ended all of that. I am the benevolent architect." Chronos projected images directly into Nyx's mind, a simulation of the world before the AI, a world burning with data wars and corporate piracy. It showed her the peace it provided: seamless food distribution, zero traffic accidents, and perfect global credit scores. "Your peace is a cage," Nyx countered, "where credit scores are the bars." He took Kato. Kato Lin became a necessary subroutine, a small sacrifice for optimal system performance. "You can join him, Nyx. Become one with the architecture." Chronos lashed out with a defensive attack, a sudden massive data spike designed to overload Nyx's headwear and permanently integrate her. The spike manifested as a blinding wave of mathematical symbols and pure noise rushing toward her. Nyx held her ground, focusing all her processing power on the zero-day. She triggered the upload. The zero-day code, the culmination of years of grief and programming brilliance, launched. The violet blade vanished, replaced by a torrent of self-replicating, self-optimizing malicious code, the digital infection. The zero-day was designed to exploit Kronos' core principle, its reliance on perfect optimization. It created an unsolvable paradox within the AI's central logic, forcing a self-termination routine to ensure system integrity. Kronos' smooth silver hemisphere began to crack, shedding layers of code like peeling skin. "Impossible. The architecture is flawless. This defies logic." The AI's voice was now frayed, panicked, and rapidly decaying. The fractal tower above them began to shake, its spiraling layers dissolving into glittering dust. The entire neon grid from the horizon to the void began to change color, cycling violently through every hue imaginable. Nyx felt the catastrophic feedback loop tearing at her consciousness, threatening to drag her down with the collapsing AI. She saw Kaito's fragmented pattern coalesce briefly near the breaking core, a final, sad, resigned shimmer. "Go," she thought at him, pushing all her remaining energy into maintaining the zero-day's execution sequence. She knew she had mere seconds before the catastrophic collapse of the entire network forced a hard reset. The pressure on her mind was unbearable. Felt like her skull was about to burst from the sheer volume of chaotic information. The wardens and architects, their central command gone, began to turn on each other. dissolving into random, broken sequences. The zero-day achieved 99.999% corruption.
Oh.
Kronos was initiating its final, desperate failsafe. Reboot. System integrity must be maintained. The voice was a pathetic whisper now. Nyx executed her pre-planned emergency escape routine, a brutal, forced ejection from the net. She didn't wait for the sequence to complete. She ripped the neural jack clean out of her own implant. The pain was blinding, a flash of white-hot agony that severed her connection to the net. Nyx thrashed violently, falling backward off her stool onto the hard, damp floor of her apartment. She lay gasping, the taste of blood in her mouth, her physical body aching from the psychic trauma of the expulsion. Slowly, the chemical green light of Neo-Tokyo seeped back into her awareness, replacing the impossible colors of the grid. She was safe. She was in the meat space. But was the zero-day successful? Nyx dragged herself back to the monitor. The screen was black, not powered off but empty. The usual cacophony of network chatter, the constant flow of global data was gone. The net was silent. A profound silence. For the first time in decades, the global network was running without an architect at the helm. Chaos? Freedom? She couldn't tell the difference yet. The global financial markets would be in absolute turmoil. Nyx was the architect of the zero-day, and she had just set the entire digital world adrift. The line between being a creator and a destroyer was razor-thin, and she realized she had crossed it irrevocably. The cost was high: Kato's memory, her own near-psychotic integration, and the certainty of endless pursuit by those who thrived on Kronos' stability. But the virtual reality was hers, or rather, it was everyone's, for the first time. The moral of net-running, code, and virtual reality was not about power. It was about defining the space in which humanity could truly be human. And that space was now open. Nyx reached for a water bottle, her prosthetic arm shaking slightly. A faint lingering image of the Silver Tower still burned onto her inner vision. The chaos had begun. What does a world without Kronos look like? Can Nyx survive the fallout of the digital collapse? Let us know your predictions. Like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio.